Hey guys, Steve, or Metty, as I'm apparently part of 48 Deck of Opportunity here, and I just wanted to, I guess it's kind of like do a little follow-up that Kevin just posted for the Final Fantasy video, his thoughts on the series, but more so what kind of got him into it, and I guess, as he said, the influence that it had on his life as a gamer and whatnot. I must apologize right now. I don't have a script ready, and am actually really wiped out at the moment. I got home from work. I immediately came on here and worked on a couple of videos to start getting stuff out to you guys again and try to figure out what the problem was, and then fix everything else. Oh man. But I gotta say, 25 years. That Squaresoft, Squeenix, whatever you want to call them, has been going on with the series. A series that actually only came about as a last-ditch effort at the time before Square Japan actually would have been closing their doors. It's amazing what such a little thing can do. But actually, my first experience with the Final Fantasy series was, oh god, it was back in elementary school. I was over at my friend's house one day, and we were just hanging out with his older brother, and he actually had a copy of Final Fantasy II on the Super Nintendo. And my first exposure was actually with that one that he got to let me play for like 5 minutes or something like that. I actually still remember the scene. It was, he had me finish a fight and let me go, and then I got to see my first cutscene on Super Nintendo like that when, oh my god, when you first end up meeting with the Bard and the Red Wings attack the castle. I can't even remember the name of the area offhand. Demacia, that's it. When Demacia was under attack by the Red Wings. Man, that was something back in '91 when it first released. But in the 25 years of it, my first real exposure to the series at all was actually Final Fantasy VIII. When I was growing up, I was pretty much a Nintendo family. So when it came out that it was the Nintendo 64 Sony, my parents ended up getting my sister and I a Nintendo 64, and we started a small collection with that. But we ended up getting bypassed with Sony for a couple of years. And when Final Fantasy VIII came out, my friend was fortunate enough to pick it up, and I was over there one day, and my friend Sean and I started playing that, and when I first saw the opening movie, it just completely blew me away. I could not believe how realistic it looked at the time. And actually, even nowadays, I'll still load that up and just take a look at that and still just be amazed with just how realistic it can look for 1998. And I mean, it's almost the end of 2012 now. And just that opening scene can still throw people, can just explode away. And when we were playing through the game, this I want to say that the story had a little bit to do with it, but it was actually more the characters and the setting that it was based on that really had drew me in. I too am a really big Tom Clancy fan. I mean, I'm actually looking at my bookcase right now, and I actually have most of the main series with Jack Ryan and John Clark, and a little bit lesser of Domingo Chavez. I have the complete Net Force series, and I don't actually own them, but I've even read the Junior Net Force, and I've read one or two of the other various books that he has. So it's fair to say that I really enjoy his works and stuff with the military and how realistic it could be. So that was part of it drawing me in, but the other part was actually just uh, actually just the fact that I started playing it when I was 14 and all the main characters were just a couple years older, and it was in a world that I would have loved to have lived in at the time. And so I think I played a lot of that simply based on that fact alone as well. And then, I mean, later on as it went and I started understanding a little bit more of the plot, um, yeah, I did like it how, I mean, the Sorcerer War and some of the political intrigue that was going back and forth, and the fact that you're playing mercenaries that are called in for the job, and just the daily routine of that, and how most of the game went. And then up to the point where you're starting getting to Alone in the future, Sorceress trying to take over, and that just was like, what are you doing? But yeah, Final Fantasy VIII was probably my first biggest exposure. The only problem with it that we had at the time was that near the end of disc 1, Sean's disc was scratched to the point beyond of repair, and we could not get past one of the cutscenes, despite any trick that we could do. So it had taken me about 2 or 3 years after when I was finally able to pick up a Green Label copy of my own, and I had bought a PS1 back in the day. I think I still have it somewhere actually, but yeah, then I was actually able to finally get by that part and truly enjoy the rest of the game for what it is. And it was around that time that I had also picked up Final Fantasy VII as well. Not to mention, actually, around that time is, yeah, I mean, a lot of things happen amazingly. Actually, no, it's around that time that I picked up 8 that I also started looking into 7. And I got my hands on that, and I very much enjoyed my first playthrough as that as well. I definitely have to say that 8 was a bit more enjoyable and a lot more of my favorite, but that's mainly because of the characters and the setting. But I enjoyed 7 just as much. I don't go into the whole fanboyish thing, but I gotta say that Sephiroth being a big bad for the most part of the game until the big spoiler later on, which I'm not going to reveal right now, did draw me in, and I thought he was a badass for most of the game as well, I gotta say. But it was my junior year of high school, sophomore junior year of high school, that emulation started to become big on the internet scene, and some of my classmates actually showed me what it could do, and that's when I was really able to get into the depth of the games that I played and that Square released, because that's when I was able to get my hands on the original trilogy. Eventually I translated 4, as Kevin mentioned at one point. The ever elusive 5 and 6. Now I mentioned I played Final Fantasy 2 as my first exposure for that, and then my first playthrough was actually Final Fantasy 2, the translated version, before I was able to find a decent translated patch for 4, but that came later on. And I have to say that's probably one of the best games I've ever played. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I think it's just something with the retro 16-bit feel, and the classic gameplay, and how it can be simple yet really, you really have to think it sometimes, or otherwise you're not going to live and be able to make it through the game. But also something about the story, and the story really started to draw me in even more so once I was able to see an original script. And as a small correction, given the two differences, yeah, I have to say the US version is kind of shitty. That's because us Americans on this side ended up getting what they call the ease version, so they did cut a lot of things out, and they did make the game easier to play. Being able to find an original hard mode with all the original abilities and the monsters as strong as they should be, as well as an untranslated script, really brought the game into a whole new light for me. And I just adore it even more so. I'm actually going through, like, I think my fourth 4th or 5th playthrough right now, to be honest, and that's just for fun. The original games I've actually now own technically in one way or another. And the fact that I have ROMs for the first 3 original games. I have bought Final Fantasy Origins at one point and played a little bit of that, and I also had Dawn of Souls at one point in my possession, and that's actually how I beat the first Final Fantasy ever, was actually in Dawn of Souls, I'm sorry to admit. And number 2, for the regular Nintendo, I honestly can say I haven't played all that much with, although I hear it's just as amazing as I feel for number 4, especially with our friend Eric, who's actually played through most of it. And if we can get him on the show, maybe he can give a little introspective insight as well. But unfortunately, the one time I played, I spent about an hour and a half working on my characters and then started doing the exploration thing, but ended up in a stronger monster set and got completely owned, and I lost all that work that I put to it, and I kind of rage quit that day and just never really got back to it. As for Final Fantasy 3 on the regular Nintendo, every now and then when I find myself I have some free time, I will load that up and keep going through the game. I'm sorry to say I haven't played as much as I should have right now. But there's just so many other games out there that I'm just getting into and wanting to check out and buy. Number 5, I've played a little bit of. I've played about 6 or 7 hours of it, and then I started just getting really bored with it. I don't know why. I mean, I like how they brought back the job system that was introduced in number 3, and then actually really isn't used again to the best of my knowledge until something like number 3 came out, or 13, excuse me. And then number 3/6. When I was about 12 years old, there were people that lived on the street from us. Then I was able to get my hands on both that and Secret of Mana, the actual cartridges, for a while. Or no, Secret of Mana, and I actually borrowed number 3 from my friend. Secret of Mana is something else that you guys might be seeing in the upcoming future. I'm actually finishing about my 4th playthrough of that as well, and that's the one not on the cartridge. I think I played about 2 playthroughs when I was able to borrow the cart. The game was just amazing in its own way. But when I got a chance to borrow number 3 from my friend, and I had to have put, I think, about 26 hours into it before I had to give it back to him, and I was sadly not able to finish the game at that point. Once again, with the advent of ROMs and technology for that I was able to play through 3 in its entirety and actually finish it. I'm trying to get my hands on a translation for 6. Unfortunately, I've not had a good luck in that stand in the past couple of years, but maybe someday. 7 and 8, or I've already given my spiel on. And number 9, I'm sorry to say I've only played an hour of that, and I have not actually gotten my hands on a physical copy of it yet, and I've only was able to really enjoy the game for what it is by watching someone else play it. But dear God, that game, to bring back some of the roots and see all of the throw-ins that Square had at that time. I'm sorry, I am exhausted at the moment. But number 9 was just, they just had so many throwbacks, and it was great to see how they utilized, there was a set class for each character, but the way that they utilized it was nicely done. And for the fact that they traded down on graphics a bit to have a solid story that's more in the setting, more of the feel of, oh God, I'd actually have to say number 6. I mean, it's a mix of old and new, both for the times and the way that the game played out, and it's just great. And hopefully I can get Eric in here to talk about it. Now, after that, my knowledge actually does start to end a bit with it. Number 10, I have played like 2.5 hours at the beginning and the last 5 hours of the game on a friend's save file. Because I started my own game the one day. I've gotten that. after the first sin fight into it, and then the game just crapped out of me. And I haven't really had time or the will to just sit down and actually start the game again with that. But I did actually go through my friend's save file and actually, yeah, ended up being the one to beat the game. Yeah, on her file, which was actually kind of funny. And we just went back and forth and we went through the whole thing, and it was actually quite amazing. Number 11 and 14 I have not played. Neither have I played any of these side ones like Tactics or Tactics Advance or whatnot, I'm sorry to say. But when number 12 came out, I think I got through about 75% of the game, and then lost my save file. Oh yeah, I put months into that game, going through it, doing the hunts, and we had just gotten so far into it. And then I find out that the Uber save file was not on my memory card when I came back from school. I was pissed. And the same with number 10, I just did not feel like putting all that effort into actually going through it again. Which brings me to the last, the cream of the crop, in number 13. Yeah, I don't know what it is about that game. I guess it just must be with so many other games out there. But I picked up my copy, oh god, about 2 years ago, and I'm maybe 15 hours into it, if that. I am such a horrible person, and I know it. But I gotta say, I am enjoying the little bit that I've played for 13, so hopefully when I get some more time, maybe I will this semester, I have a bit more free time. So when I'm not recording videos or playing other games on here and trying them out, I'll get a night or two to sit down and just continue playing that. And I just realized I've been talking for about 17 minutes now. Yeah, Final Fantasy was not exactly the game to bring me into it, that made me pick up the controller. But I'm definitely glad that I've done my research into it and definitely gotten a copy or another. Then I don't really care how. I've definitely got my hands on pretty much every version, or seen every version in one way or another. And the time that I was able to put into it is time definitely amazingly well spent. And the fact that I do have solid favorites I would recommend to anyone for playing, notably 4 and 6. And then number 3 on the regular Nintendo is a close, and number 8 as well. And I will back myself up on that pretty much any day of the week. And for all you fanboys that want to say that 7 is the greatest, I respect your opinion, but your opinion is not absolute. And I just set ourselves up for a bunch of hate with that statement. But I have to say, in the 25 years that it was, Square has managed to pump out some high quality games, and to keep the company afloat and going with that is just great. And I'm actually excited to see what they're going to, I'm really excited to see what they can have in the future. I honestly don't know what they could do at this point, and I know I'm going to be sad the day that Final Fantasy finally does become an actual Final Fantasy and the series does stop. But until then, Squaresoft, Square Enix, whatever you guys are now, I'm sorry, you will always be Squaresoft to me. That's how I grew up, loving your company with that. And Enix, I'm sorry I hadn't played much of your games until the merger, but both of you guys together are pulling out some high quality games, and this person right here says please continue to do so. And maybe with luck one day I'll even be able to be working with you guys on next to some of the legends, and be able to make a part of history. This is Steve, or Metty, Metul, from the Attack of Opportunity, wishing you guys a happy Sunday. Happy gaming to all. And, oh god, I can't believe I'm doing this, but given that football season is about to begin, go Bills! Let's have a awesome season this year. Peace out.